Let's see how she does with a hot start. Interesting. Set the choke maybe. Struggled, like timing. I don't know. All right, we're still on this journey. I just got home from the hamburger stand. Hamburgers of proof. I just tightened the battery cables. Now watch this. Here I was, thinking it was timing because I've been messing with timing, but nope, battery cables. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Between the Sharks. Today, we're gonna be addressing an issue that a lot of you may have on your classic cars if they are carbureted. Now, what we're gonna be dealing with is a slow to start situation. Now, there's a lot of things that can kind of cause that in an old car that's driven daily or intermittently, and we're gonna dive in and kind of see what we got going on here. Now, this van does start pretty reliably, but currently it turns over and over and over and over before it decides to bark off, and that's indicative, you know, of something that could use a little improvement. Now, if your car turns over and over and over and over again without starting, it's pretty clear indication that you either don't have fuel or you don't have fire, or you don't have the two in the right place. If it's turning over but slow and kind of bucking, outside of a weak battery, your timing may be a little bit too advanced. Alternatively, if it turns over and turns over freely but doesn't start, your timing may be a little bit retarded. So I usually look there first. However, in the last video chronologically, we got into the timing on this one. So I believe that we are set at 10 degrees before top dead center, give or take 2 degrees. Now, that does come with the assumption that we have a healthy spark and healthy coil and all of that razzmatazz, and I do believe that we do because it does fire off and I have driven it quite a bit. So that leads me to, you know, the other suspect item, the carburetor. Now, our pal the carburetor often gets falsely accused for problems that really stem from ignition and bad ignition timing. But in this particular case, I bought this carburetor used and just dropped it on the engine. Like, I think I blew out through the air idle mixture screw passages, and that was it. So I don't know how the float's set. I don't know how much crud is in there. I don't know how long it was on the shelf, really. The guy told me 3 months. He said he never ran ethanol, but non-ethanol gas does varnish. Ethanol gas corrodes in a different way. Anyway, there's a couple of things. Now, I did check the fuel pressure the last time we were in here and have reset that to the correct, I think 4.5, 5.5, whatever edelbrock says is what I did. So now we are gonna start from the top. This car has been sitting for over a week. Keep that in mind. Considering this car has been sitting for over a week at this point, waiting for a day where I could, you know, get into the carburetor, I'm gonna go ahead and give it a pump of gas that should set the choke and give us a little squirt from the accelerator pump. If that doesn't happen, that's going to be a clue of things to look for. Here we go. Pushing the gas now. That definitely seems like it had a squirt. Did not seem to set the choke though. All right, so squirted gas didn't really set the choke. Let's see what happens if I try to crank it over. There was that horrible noise that I thought we solved by changing the timing. Let's try again. I just manually set the choke. Weird. Well, sports fans, couple things so far, right? We've proven that the bowls aren't empty because the accelerator pump squirted some fuel. The choke is not behaving totally correctly, and somehow we also just captured that loud bang I've been chasing on video. So, you know, if you got a thought about what that sound is, put it in the comments. Maybe check out the video where I said I broke the van and see the process we went through, because maybe that's also going to be insightful if you guys have some bright ideas. Now, the other thing I've noticed is, based on where this mark is and where these marks are on the carburetor, this electric choke thing is not set up correctly. So who knows what else is not set up correctly, floats or whatever else. So I'm gonna fire it up, move it into the backyard where little brown dog can hang out with me, and we'll check fuel pressure while we do that. Then we'll pop the carb off and maybe take a look. All right, here we go. Fire it off one more time, see what happens. Choke's not working at all, but like it's firing off. It is struggling though, so I guess we'll recheck the timing. Make sure it didn't slip at all. Trying to move the distributor. Seems pretty solid though. Don't fall over now. What do we got there? Can we read that? A little over 5.5. Shutting her off. Just looking for any fuel leakage or whatever. Still a little evidence in the weights. The spot where the weights go. Anyway, first things first. Let's get little brown dog out here to hang out, and then we'll pop that carburetor off and just get involved, see what's in there, see what's going on. Well, good news is we've made it to the backyard. Bad news is the afternoon's getting on and I just lit the smoker, so priorities are gonna be what they are. But let's pull this thing off of here and see what we can see. Gonna skip this process. Now, we could pull the air horn off the top while it's on the motor, but I watched my cousin Vinny growing up and...
And while you're replacing one of the jets, you accidentally drop the jet, it goes down the carburetor, rolls along the manifold and goes into the head. You're fucked. You just learned the hard way that you gotta remove the carburetor first, right?
That was all the warning I needed about working on a carburetor while it's on the car. It just increases the odds you drop something down the intake, which, man, that'll make a bad day happen real fast. So we're gonna snatch it off, put it on the bench, investigate. All right, gang, if you've never taken a carburetor off, you got a new car, new to you type of thing, just take a bunch of pictures before you start. Label the vacuum hoses the best you can. It doesn't even matter if you know where it goes to. You can just write, you know, dingle hopper sticking off the back, and so long as you can kind of front right, front left, you know, orient yourself, that'll be all right. Now, the other thing about it is, it's good to know where all your stuff came from, but if you've learned anything from this channel, just because that's where the last Bubba put it, doesn't always mean that that's like the right place that it ought to go. You know what I'm saying? Considering I know this choke is wrong, I'm curious about what else we're gonna find incorrect about this carburetor. And we're gonna have to consult different sources, internet, edelbrock manuals, whatever. Like, I know these things pretty well, still not an expert. Guy ought to just check his work, you know? Before you wander away, fellas, get yourself your cleanest dirty rag and just, you know, it'll help stuff from going down the hole. Next tip, gang. This thing is full of fuel, so grab yourself a lunch tray. It's gonna be helpful for like collecting all the parts and pieces. Maybe grab yourself two, you know what I'm saying? Bam. Second tray. I would also not endeavor into this endeavor unless I was holding a carburetor kit in hand. You're gonna tear a gasket somewhere in here taking this apart, so you go ahead and just get one ahead of time. Keep one on the shelf, you know what I'm saying? I got 3 more on their way in the mail. All right, in my humble opinion, this is not a place for power tools because you've got some kind of steel fastener in the aluminum body, and well, one is stronger than the other, and I'll tell you what, it's not the cheap one. So I've also talked about this kit a bunch of times on the channel, but if you're new, not sponsored by Husky or Home Depot, obviously. I don't even know if they still have the Husky brand, but if they do, this 37-piece socket set thing is the only toolkit that I've actually ever kept together, but it has gotten me out of many a jam. And I don't even know what this kind of fastener is, but it doesn't matter because I got the doohickey, what goes in it, right in this kit somewhere. T25, it seems like. I guess that's a Torx. I don't know. I want to go ahead and pull these screws out. Then we're going to take a look-see in there, because usually if you're going to see stuff, it's like right at the top. Doesn't mean there's not more stuff wrong. Just what you're going to see is right at the top. Come on. All right. Just a rudimentary drill bit test here. It's 7/16. Even with the gasket in there, it still looks pretty darn close. Accelerator pump looks okay. Look at that razzmatazz. By razzmatazz, I mean gunk. That is a lot of sediment. Again, I'm not surprised. I knew this carburetor had been run and then sat for a while. It was on an older Corvette, and then I've been feeding fuel through a couple fuel filters from a gas tank that sat for 5 years. So, don't know where this came from, but not shocked to see it at all. But in this case, it's absolutely worthwhile to go ahead and do the full rebuild, which for an edelbrock carburetor just means taking the thing apart, cleaning out all the passages, and putting it back together. And as far as I know, it's about the simplest of all carburetors. So I'm gonna just dive in. I am not gonna do a rebuilding video, but I'm gonna stop every time I find something suspicious so that I can maybe show you what I'm looking for or looking at. I mean, step one, I gotta clean all that crap out. The bagpipers are out again, gang. I just poured the carb out, and that's what I got. Whew. It doesn't smell as varnishy as it looks, but it's not good. Some of that varnishy stuff, though, was down in these secondary weight little well things. But you can see there's a lot of sediment still in there. Of course, I'm holding the camera with my gloved hand because I only have one glove. Going a little Michael Jackson action here. All right, I'm just gonna start pulling all this apart, and then we can spray everything out with carb cleaner and on and on and on. We're gonna put new gaskets, all the good stuff that makes an edelbrocky. You know, you Holly guys are like, yeah, it makes it trash. I'm gonna show you guys this tray because it can be helpful for those of you guys that are not pros at this and or are disorganized, and I am both. So basically I've got my carburetor body here, and everything is kind of where I took it apart. So like this came out of here, this, you know, jets. All the bits and bobs are arranged around the carburetor in an orientation, you know, that makes sense to the carb. Now I am gonna have to pick this carburetor up, spray it all out with carb gunk and all that, clear all the passages, get all the gasket material out, all that stuff. And so I will need to put the carburetor back in this orientation in order to remember what I did, but guy can take a picture of that and hopefully we'll be able to remember, you know what I'm saying? All right, team, I got the little weight and I forgot the little check valve ball out from in here. I scraped off all the gaskets. Just be really careful, it's aluminum. You got to get all the gasket stuff out. You don't want it falling in the carburetor, and you don't want to gouge anything, but you know, I use the flat edge of the flat blade and it'll, you know, just work at it. It's fine. I wear safety glasses because I shoot my eye out with this stuff all the time, just like Ralphie. Now, I happen to buy some carb cleaner lately, and I usually don't have that. I usually just have brake clean and, you know, whatever. It'll get by. This carb definitely ran ethanol-free fuel for a while, so it's got some old school gasoline varnish in it. So this will actually help with that. It doesn't really matter for ethanol. Basically, we gotta blow out all the passages, make sure everything's clear, get all the dirt out of the bowls that's still in there, and essentially put it back together. Get some of this in here. But, you know, they're not terribly complicated. Just clean it all out. That's what we're gonna do. That tastes terrible. Ah. Dog's yelling at something, so we're just gonna listen to her yell in the background. Now, rebuilding a carburetor, at least an edelbrock like this, in stock formation is nothing to be afraid of. For the most part, it's just taking it apart, cleaning it all out, and putting new gaskets in, because you're gonna tear up gaskets while you try to take it apart. If you're methodical about where you put your parts and pieces as you take it apart, you can always put it back together, watch some rebuild videos, you'll be fine. I do know that this white mark is registered against these marks right there. So we're definitely out of tune here. So I'm gonna go ahead and loosen these up, and then we'll try to turn it, because that's how you adjust it. So this thing, if I let it go, it is springing back, which tells me that this thing is most likely clocked correctly with the clock spring that's in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and just set it in the middle and tighten her down. So now on the choke side, we have some tension here, which means this is all connected via the spring in here, which means that as you open the throttle the first time, the spring tension actually closes the choke. That was not happening while we had it on the car a minute ago, so that should be better to help the thing start mo better. So team, I picked up one of these doohickeys for the very first time. This is an edelbrock brand on the shelf at O'Reilly's. It doesn't even say what it is. It calls itself a base plate, but what it really is an insulating gasket. It's kind of a rubbery, papery material here, and what it should help do is keep the heat from the intake, which is made out of aluminum, which is absorbing all the heat from the heads, and would send it right to this aluminum carburetor, which would help the carburetor heat up, especially after the engine is off and no longer getting cooled. It's just absorbing heat. And it's even worse in those vans because just the engine's in a much smaller space than, say, like my pickup truck. And ethanol has a boiling point of 173 degrees, I think, basically 180 degrees. So the ethanol fuel will indeed boil. The boiling point of non-ethanol gas, like, I don't know, there's science involved, and parts start to evaporate at like 100, but then other parts don't evaporate till like 400. Doesn't really matter. This is a daily driver. I put pump gas in. Pump gas has ethanol. I've never run one of these, but the logic is completely sound to me. So we're gonna give it a whirl, see if it helps improve things. It's dark out. Gang. Carburetor's back on. Vacuum gauge is hooked up. Got our spacer in there, and then I got the timing light connected in the front in case, you know, we have some success. Now, standard carburetor operating procedure for an edelbrock is idle mixture screws 1.5 turns out on each side. So that's a good base point. Got to crank it over, see what happens as far as, like, it's got to fill up the bowls. Hopefully we don't have any leaks. Hopefully I put everything back together. Let's find out. Got a fire extinguisher nearby. If I didn't say that, always do. So I did not touch the gas. Now it's kind of working. Closed automatically. So that's really good news. Oh yeah, baby. All right, and that's how you open up the electric choke and get it to kind of like mellow out. All right, so we're running between 8 and 10 degrees. I'm not saying it's wobbling, it's just that I got a 2-degree discrepancy, I think, with my welding rod procedure from the last video. So I'm gonna call it okay. That's how we're looking for vacuum right now. I'm gonna let the engine warm up a little bit. Not bad. 20 inches of vacuum at idle. All right, let's check the timing one more time. You guys aren't gonna be able to see nothing. Spooky. Anyway, blinded myself. That's right at 8. I don't know. I mean, I got the doghouse off, so my guts are to give it like 2 more degrees. That should get us around 10, 12. Feels smart right now. We've got a pretty stable 21 inches of vacuum right at about 700 RPM. It's dark out here, gang. My apologies. We're back in the shop because it's idling right outside. It's warmed up. I timed it to right around, I think it's between, you know, 10, 12, 11, 13, something like that. I can't be exact, but I think it's pretty darn close. All of my methods are gonna keep me 1 or 2 degrees off, I think. But that said, it's got 21 inches of vacuum at 700 RPM with this carb setup and this timing setup, which I think is pretty fantastic. All I've got to do is drive it a little bit more. This situation with the choke seems to have worked out very well, where it set itself, it did its own thing, it came off as the engine warmed up, and that's it. There's nothing to it but to drive it and see what's what. Unfortunately, it's going to drop down to 40 degrees tomorrow, so I still want to drive it with the doghouse off for a while and just see what happens, but we'll see how much we feel like that in the morning when it's freezing outside. Gang, I Blair Witched you guys last night because I was trying to get her done. It is literally 12 hours later And yeah, it's significantly more gloomier and 20 degrees less pleasant. Here we are, rebuilt carburetor, timing adjusted, cold weather. Let's see if she'll start. Let's watch the choke, see if it just does all of the car things that it's supposed to do. See if we get any loud banging. I still don't understand what that was all about, but here we go. There we go, choke set. Should have done that by stomping the gas once first. Yep. Man, I'm getting all the fan wind right now, and it's really cold. All right, so as soon as I set the choke, it barked right off. I feel confident enough to put the doghouse back on and kind of take it for a test drive, which seems like the right thing to do. But I definitely don't want to drive it with the doghouse off because it's freezing. God, 21st century, man. I got everything kind of jammed back in here. I'm getting pretty fast at that. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I've been under here a lot, just kind of tuning, so I guess it's good. All right, set the choke. Not bad. No black smoke or anything like that. That was something I was getting previously on startup. I don't know if it was boiling over. I don't know if the carb was leaking for some reason, like there was a piece of trash in there. Floats were set okay, but it could have been a lot of stuff. This side's also good here. Yeah, I'm gonna let it warm up, and then we're gonna take it to the hamburger stand because it's Sunday and we gotta go see the hamburger man. Wouldn't call this a maiden voyage, you know, but we are riding this new carburetor, new timing. I mean, it is all warmed up though, but it's got plenty of power. It's not stumbling. I don't know, let's just see, right? I guess. This is always a test after you rebuild a carburetor too, making sure it doesn't stall at a stop. So we'll come in pretty hot here. So far, so good, team. So far, so good. All right, we supported our local burger joint. Got some Burger Crush. Dig those guys. Guys, you support your parts stores, your burger stands. Like, if you don't, Bezos is gonna own the world. Anyway, let's see how she does with a hot start. Interesting. Set the choke, maybe. Struggled, like timing. If it's turning over but slow and kind of bucking, outside of a weak battery, your timing may be a little bit too advanced. Outside of a weak battery. I don't know. Don't know, gang. Like, she fired off, but it was like, you know, you heard it was like, don't. I feel like I'm gonna be dancing that timing around for eternity. Like, it drives pretty good, it's responsive and all that, but trying to find that right balance of responsive timing and, you know, good starting. You guys just moved. What are you looking at over there? I think that's the thing, fellas. I guess I'm just gonna be chasing the timing around a little bit on this all the time. It's also an old battery and it's cold, so I don't know what all the factors are here, but the way that I usually mess with timing is like, in an older car like this with a well-worn engine and all of that jazz, is like trying to find the happy balance between, turn the heat off here, the happy balance between starting in all conditions, hot and cold, easily, but also driving well in all conditions, hot, cold, highway, street, you know, all that stuff, because, you know, it's that's essentially the thing. And a couple degrees here or there does make a difference. Right now I'm running off ported vacuum, which is what seems like the right thing to do for this car. But yeah, I don't know. We'll just keep driving and keep tinkering. All right, I guess we'll have to see as we move down the road in the future, but that's kind of the fun of old cars. I am not worried about driving this thing while we tinker with the timing. In fact, driving it and getting responses is the only way to know what we even need to do. I mean, check this out. We're doing 40. I can just hit the gas. no stumble, no hesitation. She's pulling really well. Just got that little bit of a starting issue maybe that we need to sort out. Maybe it's battery related. I don't even know. The mysteries of the old automobile. The short version is we got our hands a little dirty and we saw some results. We cleaned out some stuff. We adjusted some timing. Now we get to see how that feels, and then we'll drive it for a while. And if we need to adjust it some more, well, guess what we're gonna do? Adjust it some more. We'll find that sweet spot. All right, we're still on this journey. I just got home from the hamburger stand. Hamburgers of proof. I just tightened the battery cables. Now watch this. Here I was, thinking it was timing because I've been messing with timing, but nope, battery cables. And in addition, these are this kind of battery, which I completely hate, but it's just what's in there, so haven't bothered to mess with it. I just gave my special nuts a little bit of a turn. Both positive and negative were loose. So, you know, just a little note to self and you guys out there, like, don't get hyper focused on what you just did. That is a good place to think about, but like, expand that thought to be like, what else could it be? Battery cables are, you know, I've had a lot of loose battery cables in my time. Things getting corroded, things getting worn from like running and then not running. Anyway, thanks for watching Between the Sharks. We'll see you next time, gang. Let's see how she does with a hot start. Interesting. Set the choke, maybe? Struggled, like timing. I don't know. All right, we're still on this journey. I just got home from the hamburger stand. Hamburgers of proof. I just tightened the battery cables. Now watch this. Here I was, thinking it was timing because I've been messing with timing, but nope, battery cables.